Welcome to the Leadership Table, where faith and leadership intersect in powerful ways. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Hairston, and today we sit down with Dr. Marlon Scott, a chaplain, a pastor whose leadership is marked by compassion, presence, and hope in moments of crisis. Dr. Marlon Scott serves as a chaplain in a hospital setting, providing spiritual care and support to patients, families, and medical staff. His work in the hospital setting brings in a unique perspective on leadership during some of life's most challenging moments. Dr. Scott, thank you for being here at the leadership table. Dr. Scott, I want to ask you, you've been involved in ministry for quite some time, probably perhaps even over 30 years, and you served as a chaplain, you served as a pastor. Can you take us back to where it all began? How did you get involved in ministry, and what was the things around you that inspired you?
Well, let me start off by saying, Dr. Harrison, it is a pleasure to be with you again. And I'm just so blessed that you thought of me for this endeavor, and just blessed that the technology gives us the opportunity to connect, because I just have to say, you're one of my all-time favorite brothers, all-time favorite preachers, and just a downright all-American good guy. And I'm just so honored to be here. And brother Dr. Harrison, you were there from the start with me. We started off together, and you had mentioned my experience in ministry, in chaplaincy. So as you know, I had 10 years of apprenticeship training with you at New Salem under the leadership of Dr. Keith A. Troy. That was 10 years. And then I'm blessed to be 20 years in pastoral ministry and 20 years in chaplaincy ministry. So that's 50 years of combined ministry experience. And but that started with a urge to serve. I never thought in college I was a banking and finance major, and that's where I started my career in banking and then pharmaceuticals. Never dreamed that I would be in ministry. Um, but looking back over my life, I can see how God placed me in ministry.
Let me ask you this. Given again some of the things that you have said has been a part of your ministry journey, what do you think stands out in terms of helping you develop as a leader?
Both of your questions have been great questions. Um, I am big, and I know you are too, on preparation. Um, Jesus prepared 30 years for a 3-year ministry. Billy Graham said that if he had to do it all over again, he would have prepared more. And my preparation, like I said, at New Salem, being exposed to our pastor and other great pastors that he brought in. I'm thinking of Dr. Charles Booth is in that number, and Dr. Otha Gilliard, and many others that we were exposed to. Just preparation, and that's a lot. What I noticed. Now, Dr. Harrison, is that the young generation coming up, they don't want to put the preparation in, but the preparation is key. Sitting under leadership, being able to quiet your own ego and passions and desires, and to be able to sit under leadership, and not only that, to prepare yourself spiritually and academically. Um, and so I'll never forget when when I was just about to surrender to God's call in my life. Three things happened. One of my good friends happened to be my fraternity brother, my line brother. When I told him I was being called to preach, Dr. Hairston, he said some things I'll never forget. He said, "Don't be like all of these other young preachers that just go off their gift." And it's like he had read my mind because I hadn't not finished Morehouse. I hadn't planned to go back to school. And but he told me, he said, "Don't be like all these other pastors that just go off their gift and don't become prepared." Uh, Pastor Troy uh, told me to pray about it because when I was accepting my call, I was about to get married at the same time. And, Pastor Troy is really big on prayer. He said, pray about it. And then the minister that did our wedding in New Orleans, Dr. Gerald Young, he said, Marlon, if you're sure that God is calling you, you want to accept that call as quickly as possible. And this is what he said. He said, I know 70 and 80-year-old men that before they died, they had to accept their calling. So I did what Pastor Troy said. I prayed about it, did what my fraternity brother recommended, that I enrolled in seminary. And like you, I got my Master's of Divinity and then went and got my doctorate of ministry. And so it was those things. The preparation is key because when you're young and full of that adrenaline and full of that drive, um, you don't see at that time that you're going to be able to draw from all of the experiences, the books, the training that you learn. You see behind me, like you, this is part of my library. I have 4 libraries with over 1,000 books in it. So I just want to drive home. The thing that's helped me the most is my spiritual preparation that's developing a relationship with the Lord through prayer, and then my intellectual and academic training. And so those are the things that really have prepared me for what I'm doing now.
No, I appreciate what you just said. I think that's a wealth of wisdom that you just described because you've mentioned several individuals who played a role not just in your life but my life and maybe that perhaps the lives of so many others. But you also outlined the importance of having mentorship in your life because the realities of not being able to do this thing by yourself just seems impossible. Let me ask you this: when you look back over this ministry journey, what would you say to younger ministers now that you've become, perhaps as young people say, the OG? What would you say to those who are saying, "Hey, I feel a call, but I really am learning how to navigate this space"? What advice would you give them?
Another great question. I would say prepare. I would say prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, get grounded, get solid with your prayer life, with your devotion, with your um, all those things, and then prepare yourself academically. Enroll in an accredited seminary to get trained. You know, Kev, now you and I had to go sit in the classroom when we got our degrees, and there are great benefits. I love sitting in the classroom, but today's generation, they have options like how you and I are conversing right now, and taking classes online and all that kind of stuff. Just get in school. That's that's what led too many untrained ministers. That's part of the problem. But there are too many untrained ministers out there today. The training, an accredited school has its merits. I mean, it's a whole nother ball game because you actually know what you're talking about, and if you don't know what you're talking about, you have the propensity to find out. You can get the information when you have your Master's of Divinity, when you have your Doctorate of Ministry or PhD. This is imperative. I read something like only less than 10% of all clergy have graduate level degrees. And then after that, and then like maybe less than 5% or 3% have doctorates. You know, we would not go to an attorney. We would not go to a physician that did not have proper training. And so that's what I would say. Sacrifice. I know, and it's a sacrifice. You and I, we had to sacrifice time, finances, all of this. But you and I can sit back now as published authors and say it was all worth the journey, and we can now share our information with young ministers. But I just want to remind you, there are no shortcuts in ministry, and you want to take the time to build that sound foundation through prayer, Bible study. But not only that, going back and sacrificing to learn as much as you can about the ministry.
I love what you just said because you remind us all, and not just to the younger generation, but to all of those who are entering into whether or not it's faith leadership, but any form of leadership, is that you got to do the work. There's no shortcuts in this thing. And so I believe what you just said, man, really, really knocks it out of the park. Now, when I think about all the things that you do, I mean, and I'm probably just, and I haven't even hit on some of them because you just said about writing books. You're an author. You're doing work as a chaplain. You're doing work in the community. You're a husband. You're a father, and you're an advocate as an alumni of Morehouse College. And so, when you think of all those different responsibilities and titles that you carry, how do you balance it all? How do you stay afloat in making sure, as the person who juggles, that nothing falls down?
Man, that another great question. My late father, always taught about being well balanced, and so the way I have juggled it through prayer. I got to give God the glory, because I'll just insert this quick thing about prayer. When I was being trained, uh, even though I would pray an hour on my own, I really didn't like prayer meeting and stuff at church. I just wanted to get in the Word. You know, teach me the Word. I want to hear the Word. I don't want to hear, the deacons come out and pray and all that. But see, but the Lord had to teach me nothing happens without prayer. So God had to slow me down on that tip. Now, you know, I have an extensive prayer ministry. So I will say, number one, pray, because that's how doors are going to be open. That's how you're going to be able to do things that um, you seek to do, the things that the Lord has called you. And then, man, just being a stickler with organizing my time. So when you and I met, Kev, and when I was accepting my call to ministry, I was working full time, and so I was forced to learn how to really budget my time, not waste time, and really be effective with my time management. And that has served, because I couldn't work full time and then go to school full time and not know how to budget and manage my time. So that having great time management skills, that really helped me. But then another thing, what gives you the passion and the fire about it is when you're in your purpose, when you're doing what God has called you to do. There's a fire, and even though I'm an uncle, as the young kids say, unc or OG now, I still have that fire and that passion for ministry and for empowering people. Still feel young, and so just that, man. Prayer, time management, and just being in your purpose. When you're in your purpose, it's like you are a eagle in the air. It's natural. Or you're like a fish in water. It's natural, and so those things. And then once again, through prayer, being connected to God, things that are greater than you, the writing and the ministry and the serving and all other things that are greater than you flow from you because you're connected to that power source.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I'm reminded about when you came and you and your wife and your daughter came and you visited with us, and we were celebrating the transition that was taking place in our ministry. And I was reminded of the conversation, and it's led me into having that same kind of the illustration of that conversation hundreds and hundreds of times. But one of the things that we talked about was, as you had just mentioned a little while ago, is that when we met each other, the seasons of life we were in. I was a young man trying to finish up school, and I was riding a bike. And but about my goal was to go to school. It wasn't really about what my transportation looked like. But we talked about when we were in that particular season almost 30 years ago. And so when you look at the season that you're in right now, how does it feel to really have crossed over? And as we talk about the Timothys and the Pauls of life, now, I mean, at one point in time, you were a Timothy, and now God has allowed you to become a Paul. How does that feel? What gives that motivation to stay in that lane as a Paul?
So that's another thing you and I have in common because when I was a student at Morehouse and you were a student at Ohio State, I rode a bike too, man. And matter of fact, people used to, because I was in Atlanta, and that's the land of flexing and whatnot. And I was on this Schwinn bike, and man, a lot of people laughed at me, and that kind of served as a motivation too. And matter of fact, that helped me get my car because my mom, I said she's like, we want to do something with transportation, but man, another great question. It feels great to be able to share what I have learned with other people. Wisdom is God's intelligence, right? And so wisdom is, let's say, and you and I benefited from this, man. You and I, we benefited from Dr. Troy's wisdom as we sat up under him and other leaders. Wisdom helps you to advance way more than you would have advanced on your own, right? And so now, Kevin, you and I have an opportunity, even through this podcast, to let some young person advance further than what we could do. For example, like financially, a lot of times, man, growing up, the knowledge about finances and whatnot was limited in our community. And so a lot of times, young people get out. I know I did get a credit card, and you want to be big time and spend what you don't have and get credit and all that kind of stuff. But see, wisdom, when we pour that into other young people, we can let them know, hey, you don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. You can be further along by the time you're 40 and 50 than we were when we're 40 and 50. So that is really refreshing, and that really drives and motivates me, man, that through our experiences, we have actually gleaned some things that will be of great value and wisdom, being able to accelerate people's success, accelerate their faith, to know that, yeah, you know, God is serious about us. He's not playing. He's standing on business. And the more we learn and can share, the more the blessings will flow.
Well, Dr. Marlon Scott, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here on the leadership table. I thank you because you bring a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, not only to ministry, but also just about being compassionate and caring in those lives that may perhaps be going through a traumatic situation. Dr. Marlon Scott teaches us that leadership is not often found in the quiet moments of life, but sometimes when we're going through some difficult moments. And again, I want to encourage all of you, please go to Amazon, type in Marlon Scott's name, grab whatever books that are out there, because there is a wealth of wisdom that sits at the footsteps, man, because of this gentleman. Thanks again for joining us at the leadership table. And again, until the next time, always keep the faith.
Boxland Media. Think big,